We will begin our meeting. I'd just like to let anybody joining us as a guest remind you, if you could please turn off your camera and your mic has been muted. We're pleased that you're able to join us to observe our meeting. So I would like first to read the acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional land of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which is represented by the communities of Saugeen First Nation and Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We also think of the Métis Nation of Ontario, whose history and people are well represented in Bruce and Grey counties. I do not believe we have received any regrets tonight. Is that correct, Bev?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. So for our moment of reflection, we hope that everyone had a safe and enjoyable family day, which involved many special moments of togetherness. February is also always a busy month for important occasion in our board and school communities. This is Black History Month. The future is now is this year's theme in recognition of the transformative work that Black Canadians and their communities are currently doing. We have some amazing learning on Black History Month occurring in our schools throughout February, thanks to the support of some of our community partners. We are looking forward to hearing more about this a little bit later this evening. Tomorrow is Random Acts of Kindness Day. During these unique times, it is especially critical that we show kindness and compassion to others. I am sure we can all think of some creative ways to do this virtually. And last but not least, Pink Shirt Day is next week on Wednesday, February the 24th. Students, staff, trustees, families, and others in our school communities are encouraged to wear their best pink as a collective pledge to stand up to bullying in all its forms. We are hoping for full participation. For this month's moment of reflection, please join me as we pause and focus on the themes of kindness, inclusivity, acceptance, and equality. These are always among our priorities as a board, though right now is a crucial time for all of us at every level of our organization to reflect on how we can demonstrate these attributes through our daily attitudes and actions. So for tonight, could I have a mover that the agenda for the regular meeting of the board of February 16, 2021 be approved as printed? Trustee Morgan and a seconder, Trustee McComb. And all in favor? And that is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest on any of the items on our agenda tonight? I see none, thank you. Just sort my papers here. We have two minutes to approve. The first, that the minutes of the regular meeting of the board of January 19th, 2021 be approved as printed. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee Johnstone and seconded by Trustee Dawson. Were there any omissions or errors in those minutes that people saw? All in favor? Thank you, and that is carried. And the second is our Committee of the Whole minutes. I'm looking for a mover that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole board meeting of February 2nd, 2021 be approved as printed. Could I have a mover, please? I see Trustee Atkinson and Trustee McComb. Again, was there any errors or omissions in that in those set of minutes? I see none. All in favor? And that is carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? I see none. So that takes us down to our excellence in education. I would like to invite Superintendent of Education Keith Lefebvre to speak to this report. And while he's getting ready, could I have a mover that the Blue Water District School Board receive the Black History Month report for information? I see Trustee Johnstone and a seconder, Trustee Boyd John. And welcome, Superintendent Lefebvre.
Thank you. I'm going to try this again. I practiced this a little bit earlier. Here we go. Could someone please let me know whether you can see the first slide, Black History Month?
Yes, I can.
You can see it. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So thank you very much for allowing me to present today on Excellence in Education, Black History Month here in Blue Water District School Board. What I would like to share with you first off is that we've had a very exciting opportunity presented to us over the last this month in February, but it's going to last right through until the end of the school year. Sidet, a Canadian entertainer and motivational speaker who brings a huge amount of energy and enthusiasm to her presentations, we've been able to secure the virtual assemblies for primary students, as well as a number of 20-day diversity moments series of videos for our grade 4 to 8 students that can be used throughout the month to learn about the many incredible contributions of Black Canadians in history. These are intended to be springboards for students in grades 4 to 8 to learn more about these important figures in Canadian history. Here's an example. I'm going to show you the first one that Sidet has provided to us, and just have a listen. And if someone could let me know that they can hear everything coming up. So this is the first in a series of 20 days that the students have access to, that the teachers have access to. And the way that we did this was I sent out a link to all of our educators across the district, inviting them to download the resource. So I've been able to track how many people have downloaded and the access that we've had to the resources. So I know that we've had approximately 150 people download the resources. So that's 150 classrooms, or by my estimate, probably about 3,500 students that are having access to CIDET's resources. So the primary resource is an assembly that can be shown at any time during the month. And then the CIDET's resources for the month for the grades 4 to 8 are the series of diversity moments. And it culminates in a unique game show that I'm just going to show you the first minute, but she's tailored this just for Blue Water students. So she walks you into a game show moment where the students get to test their knowledge of those trailblazers within Canadian history. Speaking of trailblazers, we have purchased a book called Trailblazers for all classes with grade 7 students. So any class with a grade 7 student in it, so a 6-7, a 7, a 7-8 class, these books will then be placed afterwards into the libraries and shared with other staff to be used with all students. Our program team helped to create a resource guide to support the work being done in the classrooms. And the book looks, I've got a copy right here. It's a great book, nice hardcover book, really good quality. And we purchased enough, like I said, for all of our grade 7 students, for all classes, so that they can learn more about some important trailblazers like Viola Desmond. She's one of 40 Black trailblazers that have helped to shape Canada. And what I would like to do for you right now is just share with you one of the pages of the book. And I'm just going to share a brief little snippet from Viola Desmond. Viola was a businesswoman and civil rights activist. One day, Viola went to a movie theater in Nova Scotia. She was told that she had to sit in a different section because of the color of her skin. She refused and took a seat in the section reserved for white customers. Viola was arrested and sent to jail. Her story got a lot of attention, and it led to a new law that made racial segregation illegal in the province. So she was truly a trailblazer. In sharing some of these stories and in talking with some of my colleagues, I know that one of my kindergarten colleagues in Owen Sound, she shared with me some of the work that she's done in the last week, talking with her JKSK students, and they were reading the story of Viola Desmond, and they discussed how it made them feel. The students, they were also discussing what makes a hero and the qualities of a hero. And when they learned about the story of Viola Desmond, they said that it made them feel sad, and some of them it made them feel angry, or both. And when asked why Viola Desmond took action, one of the students said because she wants to share the world together. So I thought that was a really nice comment coming from one of our youngest students in Blue Water. I'm just going to flip to the last slide here. Sorry, just a little trouble navigating. And a huge thank you I'd like to say to all of our educators in Blue Water who are participating in Black History Month. Like I said, we have almost 150 educators who have accessed the CIDET resources, and these were made available thanks to a very generous donation by Kincardine Pride Incorporated. We will be sending out a thank you to Kincardine Pride Incorporated for their generous donation of those virtual assemblies for our students to access. And like I said, the Trailblazer book and resource guide have been will definitely help to enhance the learning throughout the district. And that is my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was watching that presentation thinking I need to step up my enthusiasm as a board meeting chair. Do trustees have any questions? Trustee Lutz.
Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. It looks really great. Are there any local connections in the content?
Right now, I am not aware of any local connections, although I know a number of educators are making those connections themselves, and they are doing that. I have not heard back from anyone with respect to the local connections that are being made, though. No, sorry.
Good question.
Although
Trustee
SciDet
Savigny.
has been, oh, I'm sorry, Chair Thompson.
No, go
SciDet
ahead.
has been to our board a number of times, and we definitely we love having her here.
Do trustees have any other questions? Trustee Johnstone.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to say that I really want to thank Kincardine Pride. There is a very active group in the Kincardine area. I know that I did get asked about how they could afford to do this, and I very much explained that what happens with a lot of, you could say, whether it was festivals or like the Pride Parade, is that they were given money prior to the lockdown, so to speak, and that as a and one of the things they did, because obviously we couldn't have a Pride Parade, is that they then as a group they basically thought about what they could do that would be something that would be really good for the community. So and so that's that's partially where the money came from. So I just wanted to say where the money came from, and I think it's really great, and it's a really great thing in terms of education for our students and by extension to the rest of our communities.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or comments from trustees? I see none. Thank you very much, Superintendent Lefebvre. It was moved by Trustee Johnstone and seconded by Trustee Boyd-John that the Blue Water District School Board receive the Black History Month report for information. All in favor? And that is carried. There are no delegations this evening, which takes us down to Committee of the Whole Board reports. And there are some recommendations coming out of the Committee of the Whole Board from February 2nd, and Vice Chair Johnstone chaired that meeting. So could I turn that over to you, Trustee Johnstone?
Sorry about that. I was on mute, and I'm just having to kind of scroll back and forth. So I'm just gonna put those motions on the floor. So the first one, and I'll move that, is that the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 2121-D, retention and disposal of clinical records, formally retention and disposal of psychological and speech language records for system use. Can I have someone second that, please? So I see Trustee Boyd-John is the second. Is there any questions or comments concerning the motion before you? I see none. All in favor? And nobody is opposed. Thank you very much. And the next one is that the Blue Water District School Board approved Board Policy BP 1601-D, the development and implementation of board policy as revised for system use. I am the original mover, and can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Trustee Atkinson. Is there any comments or questions concerning that motion before you? I see none. All in favor? And any opposed? I see none, and that has also passed. And finally, I'm just, this the second one, that the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 3512-D, corporate credit cards, procurement cards, and petty cash as revised for system use. Can I have a mover for that, please? I mean, second. Thank you, Trustee McComb. And any comments or questions concerning the motion before you? Okay, I see none. All in favor? And that has passed. And now to the final motion is that the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 6212-D, boundaries, bracket, school attendance areas as revised for system use. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Trustee Thompson. Is there any questions or comments concerning that motion? Yes, Trustee Morgan. You're on mute.
Thank you, Trustee Johnstone. Can I make a comment again that to the people that are watching, that with these policies have all been discussed at length at the policy committee, and that we're not just rubber stamping things that are going through. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for mentioning that, Trustee Morgan. And Trustee Dawson. Trustee Dawson, if you're trying to speak, you're on mute. No, you're now open. Go ahead. We're not hearing anything, Trustee Dawson. There. Try now.
We're not able to hear you, Trustee Dawson.
Yeah.
Trustee Johnstone, it's snowing like heck over here. Maybe his satellite is buried like mine is going to be soon too.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that. So I see him, kind of flashing on and off. His mic is open, but we're not. He's coming online. Look at that. Go ahead, Trustee Dawson, if you can. It seems that maybe there's something wrong with your mic. I can see your lips moving. Do you have your sound turned down, Trustee Dawson? There's just nothing coming through. So I'm just wondering, Trustee Dawson, if you wanted to maybe leave the meeting and come back in and see if we can help you out there. So everybody maybe stand by if you do that, and then we'll see if you can speak.
Trustee Johnstone, if I could just suggest one other thing, he could try unplugging his headphone setup. It might work better just to try using the computer.
Okay. Oh, I think he left. I kicked him out. I didn't do that on purpose. I was trying to be helpful. Ah, there he is. Okay. So you want to repeat that again, Superintendent Lefebvre?
Sure. Trustee Dawson, I'm wondering if perhaps you could just unplug your mic setup and just see whether the computer alone might work.
My mic is internal.
Oh, it's working now.
We got you.
My mic is internal.
Okay, so you want to say what your comment was on that motion, Trustee Dawson?
I just wanted to say that we got a fair amount of public input towards a couple of those recommendations, and just want to let the public know that we value that, and changes were made as a result of the public input.
Excellent. Excellent. Is there any further comments or questions? Okay, I see none, so I'm going to put the motion back on the floor that the Blue Water District School Board approve Board Policy BP 6212-D, boundary school attendance areas as revised for system use. I cannot remember, because I didn't copy it down, who moved.
It was Trustee Thompson.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Trustee Thompson. I was the original mover. All in favor? And that has carried, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This takes us down to the Business Committee of the Whole report from February 2nd. We will invite Trustee Dawson to speak to this report, but I must admit, as you were having difficulty, I pulled up the report myself, so we'll see how we make out there. I'm looking for a mover that the Blue Water District School Board receive the report of the Business Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 2nd, 2021 for information. That's moved by Trustee Dawson and seconded by Trustee McComb. And go ahead, Trustee Dawson.
Okay, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The Business Committee of the Whole met on Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021, and we had 5 items on the agenda. It was a very productive meeting. The committee received a report outlining the financial details of reopening schools and costs associated with remote learning. We also received a report outlining details of the survey and timeline for the 2021-2022 budget public consultation period. We also received a report about budget development. We had a presentation on items for consideration in the 2021-22 budget. We also received a very interesting and extensive report regarding outlining completed site work to optimize air quality in our schools. There was also a child care submission for St. Edmund's Public School, and that submission has gone to the Minister of Education. We also received 2 verbal reports, one on Georgian Bay Community School with an update with a photographic presentation of the progress that's been made there. The school's coming along nicely. It's starting to look like a school. And we also received a verbal report on the Beavercrest Community School project. Thank you very much, and I'm glad you're able to hear me give that report.
Thank you, Trustee Dawson. Were there any other comments or questions that you had for Trustee Dawson after his report? I see none. It was moved by Trustee Dawson, seconded by Trustee McComb, that the Blue Water District School Board receive the report of the Business Committee of the Whole Board meeting held on February 2nd, 2021 for information. All in favor? And that is carried. We had a Committee of the Whole in-camera meeting earlier tonight, and I'd like to ask Vice Chair Johnstone to speak to that, if there's any report coming out of that.
There is no report coming out of the Committee of the Whole in private today.
Thank you very much. Which brings us down to notice of motion. Are there any notice of motion tonight? Trustee Johnstone?
Excellent. So thank you very much. And so it just, yeah.
Can I just interrupt you and just to let people know procedure, because we haven't done this in a very long time. I'm not sure, since this board has been together, that we've had a notice of motion come to our board. So I just wanted to very briefly let everyone be aware that this is a notice of motion that Vice Chair Johnstone is bringing forward. It's not up for discussion or debate tonight. It will come back on our agenda in our March 23rd board meeting. And at that point, there'll be an opportunity for us to have that discussion, ask questions. And if you're looking for more information, you can go to our own bylaws, our procedure bylaws, section 3.15. Anyway, please go ahead, Trustee Johnstone. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. So this has to do with access to paid sick days to stop the spread of COVID. So whereas 80 to 90% of the low-income workers across Canada have no access to paid sick leave, and whereas these precariously employed and casual workers must stop work and forgo pay in order to quarantine or self-isolate, and whereas the Association of the Local Public Health Agencies, and that short form is ALPHA, A-L-P-H-A, which represents 34 public health units, which includes Grey Bruce Health Unit. Their medical leaders and each area's Board of Health has written to the Premier saying messaging and encouragement to self-isolate when sick are not enough to stem the pandemic. And whereas ALPHA has written to the Premier to reinstate guaranteed paid sick leave to ensure that workers do not have to choose between their livelihoods and following public health directives. Therefore, be it resolved that the Chair write to the Provincial Minister of Labour, Training and Skills Development, the Minister of Health, and the Minister of Education to ask the Government of Ontario to 1, require employers in Ontario to provide no less than 5 paid sick days annually to workers after 3 months of employment through amendments to the Employment Standards Act or through a different mechanism. 2, provide necessary funding, fiscal relief and or supports to employers so that all workers in Ontario have access to no less than 10 paid sick days annually as a public health measure to prevent transmission of communicable diseases, including in the event of a declared infectious disease emergency such as COVID-19 pandemic. And 3, ensure all workers in Ontario have access to protected and paid emergency leave so that care can be provided to children, parents, or other family members who may become ill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And just to remind you, you'll be seeing that motion in your board package before the March 23rd meeting. There are no committee establishments or appointments this evening, which takes us to our Student Senate report. I would like to invite Student Trustee Ernest to present the Student Senate report tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I've got 3 topics to report on today. The first being a little bit about the return to school last month. So after some discussion, we concluded that the transition back was a bit difficult for many students, largely because of exams being held in the same week as we returned. Although now that we're into quadmester 3, students are settling in nicely. Since coming back, a big issue is that students continue to congregate at lunchtime and are not wearing masks when within 6 feet of each other outside. The large groups congregate outside, and so we feel that more outside supervision would help to mitigate this problem. Some good news is that the protocols within the schools are being followed quite well, and most students feel very safe with these protocols in place. Academically, students seem to be coping about the same as before the lockdown. The most consistent obstacle for students is still the pace of learning. With this in mind, we feel some of the most important support that can be given to students right now is academic support from teachers and other educational staff. Emotionally, students were struggling a bit more than before. The stay-at-home order was hard on students socially, and the fact that students didn't get to see their friends was a large part of why congregations were occurring. The Senate is receiving more COVID-19 messaging from public health, which we're going to be sharing on social media to remind students of the guidelines. At a few of the schools, police officers had been patrolling and having conversations with students regarding large groupings. Students have said that having conversations with the police was a bit nerve-wracking, but has helped to clarify the expectations a bit more. Regarding mental health, it seems that students know where to go for help in crisis and with school-related issues. However, there's a lot of things that fall outside of that, and students don't know where to go for those things. For example, generalized anxiety, issues at home, etc. And it's been brought up that many students currently don't feel comfortable going to guidance or student success when they have problems. And so the Senate now is working to familiarize the students with the resources available in the schools. And so hopefully students will feel more inclined to go to guidance and student success when they're struggling. The second thing is regarding the elections. We're very happy to share that there is an increased interest in the role of senators in many of the schools this year. Multiple schools have at least 2 candidates and even 3 in Owen Sound, Kincardine, and Port Elgin. We believe the Instagram page and a lot of the promotion that we've been doing for the Senate is to thank for this increased interest and enthusiasm. In addition to that, infographics for the senator and trustee positions are in the works and will be used to help the incomings have an easier transition into their roles and have the expectations readily outlined for them. The last thing here I have is our collaboration with public health that is continuing on a monthly basis now. We have Brooke Thompson and Amanda McManaman set to join every month, the first meeting. And February's first meeting of the month, we had Krista Wally, the public health nurse for Georgian Bay and Grey Highlands, also attend our meeting. Krista expressed that the nurses from each school are very interested in building a relationship with the Senate. And so right now we're working to connect all the senators with their school nurse, and we've extended an invitation for them to attend our meetings as they wish. Our smoking and vaping campaign is continuing online with lots of content being shared on the Instagram page. And soon all the senators will be coordinating with Brooke to hang up prevention posters at each school. So that is what I have for tonight.
Well, that was a really a full report. Do trustees have any questions? I see Trustee Dawson and then Trustee Johnstone.
Thank you very much, Chair Thompson. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you. Regarding the student senator interest, I find that very encouraging. And looking ahead to next year, and I'm not sure what the situation will be, but we could still have a remote school come September. And I'm wondering if there is this interest in the remote school for a student senator position.
That is a really good question. And to be honest, I don't think that was something that we had thought of very much at this point. So that's definitely something that I will bring back to the Senate, and we will have a discussion about that and make sure that we kind of cover all the bases.
Through the chair, if I may respond, currently those interested in the Student Senate would run in their home school. So we may have to make an adjustment if we do have a remote school for September 2021 to ensure that they are fairly represented in our Student Senate and that we have that voice at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Johnstone?
Yes, thank you. And my question, was a really good question, Trustee Dawson, because mine was also related to the remote school. So Trustee or Student Trustee Ernest, you mentioned, for example, about putting up posters in schools. So how are you then, with a remote school, is that information being also sent and somehow posted in that remote school? So so students there can also be a part of the campaign. And I'm also wondering about how the student Senate / student trustees also are able to relate to the students who are attending remote schools.
So We've definitely relied a lot on our social media when it comes to the remote school, and we think that it does have a fair bit of reach. So we hope that it is helpful to as many people in the remote school as possible. So that's definitely the main thing that we've been doing, is using the Instagram page and to reach out to them that way.
Okay, thank you. I have a follow-up question, Chair Thompson.
Go ahead.
That's related to it. So, for example, because in the remote school, so just say, for example, you want to put a poster up in a physical school, would you send that poster to the principal of the remote school? And is there like a virtual bulletin board that is available online? I think that's what I'm saying, is trying to understand how these things happen. And it might not be you responding, it might require somebody else.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not quite sure on that front. If that is something that we find is available, we will definitely start to use that as well.
Through the chair, if I may, that's a very good point, Trustee Johnstone, and I can work with the Student Senate to ensure that anything posted in the schools is shared through the remote school principal, as they do have a mechanism to ensure that students see posters in that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And through the chair, just to help respond to that, having been the principal of the remote school previously, I know that Facebook is not the most current and popular way of connecting with our youth and through social media, but we do have a lot of followers with our Facebook page. So at least if they did access that through the school principal, Sarah Slater, they would at least be getting some of that information out, maybe to their parents who could pass it along. But I agree, it's not the most common social media platform for kids these days.
So if I may, Chair Thompson, is that it would be great at our virtual school if we were able to create a bulletin board page.
Good idea. Trustee Atkinson. I think you're still on mute.
My hand, I hit the button by accident, Chair Thompson.
Oh, no worries. Trustees have any other questions? I just wondered if you could help me, Student Trustee Ernst, when you have suggestions, for example, more supervision outside would help with the congregating, what do you do with those suggestions? Where do they go?
Well, we know, like, some of the senators will bring it back to their schools. Obviously, we bring it here to the meeting, and I don't know if it really goes anywhere else. I'd have to ask the rest of the senators if they do take it kind of any farther than, like, talking to their principal or anything like that. So that's something that I could definitely get back to you about.
Thank you, and I see Superintendent Elliott is there. So.
Yes, I'm very pleased to be the connection between the Student Senate and our school administrators. So when I see information, I do see the report in advance of the meeting. So I'm often able to communicate any suggestions from the Student Senate to our admin council and also to area administrators. So this is certainly one of the areas that we'll follow up with our school administrators. As Trustee Ernst said, we felt that it was primarily because of the shutdown order where students were not able to see their friends and classmates outside of school that maybe exacerbated the problem. So we're also hopeful that it might resolve itself a little bit more when there's a tiny opening in their social schedule. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again for your report. I think it's a very practical, meaningful report, and I really appreciate the input that you've given us. Next, for our staff reports, I would like to invite Superintendent of Education Cheryl Elliott to speak to our school update report. I'm looking for a mover that the Blue Water District School Board receive the school update report for information. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee McComb, and seconded by Trustee Boyd-John.
Good evening. I am happy to once again begin our school update this evening. As we've heard, staff and students have settled nicely into term 2 or semester 2 this year. One of the new items that occurred when we returned to school was that secondary students have begun to give an attestation to their homeroom teacher that they have completed their self-screening. And I was able to confirm with our Senate tonight that that is going well in our schools. Most recently, we had 2 virtual town hall meetings in conjunction with our other education partners and public health. One was designed for staff where they could ask questions of public health, and also one was for families. It was designed for students and for parents, and those were held recently. A couple of other updates. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about mental health. It's been at the forefront of our minds. In addition to student learning, it's their mental well-being, and I wanted to briefly review the mental health supports that we have for staff and students in Blue Water. In conjunction with School Mental Health Ontario, we provide mental health education, prevention, and intervention in a 3-tiered system. And School Mental Health Ontario has created what they call a School Mental Health Action Kit. And as was mentioned by Trustee Ernst, sometimes students are most comfortable speaking to their classroom teacher. So this toolkit provides lesson plans for educators to have in the class so that our staff can provide training and a guide outlining our services. And for staff supports, we have an organizational health and wellness SharePoint page, which houses all of our resources, and an employee and family assistance program. And I just wanted to let you know that we'll be having a detailed report on mental health services in Blue Water at the March 2nd meeting. A second item for you tonight is just letting you know that I'm sure you have heard the Ministry of Education in collaboration with Public Health has made the decision to delay March break by about a month until April the 12th. And we are currently working to adjust our calendar to accommodate this change. And finally, I am very pleased to represent the education sector on the Grey Bruce Vaccine Task Force. And the Grey Bruce's hockey hub model for mass immunization has garnered a lot of attention from around the province and even as far as Australia. And I wanted to let you know that educators who are essential to the functioning of a school fit into phase 2 of the vaccination plan, which is scheduled to occur between March and July this year. And despite word that there could be some delays provincially, we're confident in Grey Bruce that we will be on time to begin our vaccinations in March. So those are a few items for you tonight. If you wanted to have any questions before I pass the mic on to Superintendent Penner-Lipset, I'd be happy to answer them.
Trustee Atkinson and then Trustee Lutz.
Yeah, through the chair. Superintendent Elliott, you were talking about calendar changes. Would that affect Quadmester 4 for our secondary students with the change of March break?
Well, the entire calendar will shift because obviously we move ahead the week for March break and the spring break falls at a different time. We are still in discussions for what that will look like as far as how we'll manage the quadmesters, but that will be out to students hopefully by the end of the week and to staff as well.
Thank you.
Trustee Lutz.
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that wonderful news about vaccines for our educators. I look forward to hearing updates as it becomes closer to the time of becoming a reality. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll be pleased to bring you reports as we move along.
Trustee Atkinson, did you have another question or your hand just didn't go down?
Didn't go down.
That's all right. Anybody else have any questions? I just wanted to comment, I attended both of the town hall sessions and the questions were I think there were lots of questions, very thoughtful. They grouped them together for the answers to come, but they were well done. And I think they will be available through Jamie for us to participate in if you didn't get a chance to see them. So I'm not sure who's up next, but oh, and there's somebody with their hand up. Director Wilder.
Thank you. Just in terms of the town hall recordings, I do believe that Jamie, he includes all of you in his Blue Water media updates. And last week he did include the link for the town hall meeting for the parents and guardians and community members. Does that ring a bell with anyone? I'm sure I saw it in one of his updates. It's about a 2-hour webcast recording. Anyway, I will double check that. The one from the staff that was, it occurred on the Monday evening. We have not yet received that back from Public Health. They are still going through the Q&As that were asked to make sure they have it completed. I don't think Dr. Ara has done the final check on that. So anyway, we will resend the one from the parent community, one that happened, to you directly. I will have Jamie send that directly. And once the staff one is done, we'll also send that out.
Thank you. Go ahead, Superintendent Elliott.
Okay, and after me tonight, it's going to be Superintendent Benner Lipset.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Superintendent Elliott, for passing it over. I'm just here to give you a brief update tonight from the program department. So in Learning Services program, we are continuing with some of our professional learning, which I think I mentioned last time, that we were offering some invitational sessions for our teachers to attend, and that is coming up at the end of February. And we have a number of staff who have signed up and are going to join us for some invitational math professional learning. Additionally, last week, a team of us from Learning Services, including Student Success and Superintendent Lefebvre and myself, were able to join a ministry webinar around the upcoming de-streaming of grade 9 mathematics. And so we were able to engage in some initial conversations around this and get a little bit of information. The new curriculum itself has not been released yet at this point, and they didn't have a release date, but assured us, it would be coming soon. What we did focus on is really the goals that the ministry has outlined for the de-streaming of mathematics, and really what these goals are dealing with the de-streaming part and not so much the math part. So I thought tonight I could just share the goals with you, so you're aware of where we're at. Goal 1 is cultural shifts to dismantle systemic discrimination and structural inequities. So they're really looking at what streaming, the impacts of streaming, and streaming being students attending, being placed in academic courses or applied courses, and looking at impacts of that. Goal 2 is the increased educator capacity for effective, culturally responsive instruction, assessment, and evaluation in a de-streamed classroom. So that's really focused on educators and their place in supporting this. And the final goal in this section is increased student engagement, achievement, and well-being. So those are 3 goals, immediate goals that boards were asked to come back and think about and work with our teams to develop a plan. So we're just in that initial stage in the planning process, and we will be continuing to work on our plan throughout from now till the end of the year. Our team's committed to meeting weekly do the work, this important work. And so that's my update around de-streaming math at this time. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Trustee Lutz?
Thank you, and thanks for sharing about the goals for de-streaming. I don't know how many of the rest of you went through the de-streamed program the last time we had it. I was fortunate or unfortunate enough, however you look at it, to have gone through that program when it was de-streamed for grade 9. And so one of the things I just wanted to ask about / bring to your attention is just asking your planning and consideration is what will you be looking at for grade 10? So not just in the grade 9, but bridging into the streams, as no matter when the shift happens, there's always a challenging adjustment for students. So I'm just wondering about because I know there was always talk about adjusting to grade 9, but when the shift happens in grade 10, sometimes it's forgotten. So I'm just wondering if there's been talk about what grade 10 math will look like after de-streamed grade 9. Thank you.
Yes, and through the chair. Great point. That has been some of our discussion, initial discussion because of course it leads to that question, well, what's next? What does that mean for the next year and helping students to prepare? So that is part of our thinking, and we will continue with that. In talks with the ministry, they did mention on the call that the de-streaming of grade 9 math is not where this will end. Now, they did not commit to a timeline, a different subject area, whether they meant grade 9 math following into grade 10 math, for example, or a different grade 9 course, at another time. So we'll wait to hear more about that. But really, the conversation is focused around the breaking down the barriers, looking at the systemic issues that might be present in streaming. So they're starting there and really getting boards to think about that, have these conversations, talk about that, and do planning around that, and then bring in the subject area content, for example, math. So to your point, it definitely is part of our discussions. What does it mean for grade 10? But we're also looking, what does it mean across grade 9 and then into grade 10? So thank you.
Thank you very much for your response. And just to clarify, my laughter had absolutely nothing to do with your response and more to do with the ministry and history repeating itself. So I apologize profusely, and I hope no offense was taken, because your answer was wonderful and thoughtful, and I apologize. So thank you.
No. Thank you. I wondered for a moment if I had a cat face or something. I thought, oh gosh, I have one of those emojis. Yeah.
Trustees have any other questions? I'm taking a wild guess here that Superintendent Tang is next.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have a very short report from Human Resource Services. We are just finishing up the final stages of the additional staffing that we put into both elementary and secondary at the halfway mark of the school year. And really now we are turning our attention to planning for the 2021-2022 school year. We are proceeding with caution on the ministry's advice to plan for a normal year next year, but we are staying ready and doing the thinking to be able to respond to a change in circumstance should that happen. And that is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Trustees have any questions? Trustee Johnstone?
Yes, Superintendent Tang, that word you were stretching for is pivot.
These days, it feels like a pirouette. You just keep going around.
Twirling, twirling. Yes, The Simpsons. Thank you.
Superintendent Lefebvre.
Hi, I have a quick and easy remote school update for you. The transition into term 2 and quadmester 3 has gone swimmingly, and I think we're getting better and better with each of our quadmester changes. I'm sure by quadmester 8 we're going to be just having this down pat. No, I'm just joking. Quadmester 3 has been a smooth transition, and our term 2 startup has been fantastic. The team is doing a wonderful job, and I know that they're going to be in at the board office doing some work with report cards needing to go home and getting all of those hard copies out to schools and to families and all the mailing that has to take place. They're going to be hard at work over the next week or so. Other than that, those are the only remote school updates I have for you right now. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? I see none.
Then it's Superintendent Cummings to finish us off.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So a brief update, very similar to the previous one, but we are moving along with our third-party HVAC inspections, and our reports are being submitted so they can be shared with our joint health and safety committees and all the schools. The additional funds for custodial support's on track. Our operations staff are on a regular schedule and shifts at our schools. And our PPE is in good supply at this point, easily maintaining our surplus stock right now. So if schools do have a need right now, they can get emergency stock from our maintenance shop. As well, the regular orders coming in from the province centrally are in an excellent order now in terms of their regularity and their frequency. So, a few hiccups early on, but things look good now. Transportation, it's the same story. We're not experiencing many cancellation of routes because of driver shortage, but we will have a few, and we have had a few. We've had a pretty good week at this point. So, it's a day-by-day thing right now, and I think we're doing better than most, and probably, there's probably a board out there doing better, but we are not in an alarmist state at this point with our driver shortage, other than to recognize that we do have one. And that's the brevity of business services today. And that brings to an end our school update report.
Do trustees have any questions? I just have one question about busing. Each time we do a report, I hear you say that we have driver shortage and some routes have been combined. I just wonder if you could, at what point is the top level of when we're concerned about crowding on a bus?
Students need a seat to sit in. So if we get to the point where students cannot sit in a seat, that bus should not be transporting students. Right? So, I mean, we've taken excellent measures in conjunction with public health and the guidelines around busing and physical distancing as much as we can on a bus. And we're trying to keep our kids close together. But the reality is the bus operators aren't going out to buy a $400,000 bus or 10 extra buses to make this happen. They just don't have that capital in place. So we do that by assigned seating. We do that with PPE. We do that with reminders to our students who are riding the bus of who to sit with. And it's actually worked out very well at this point. We have had one issue with a crowded bus where it had to pick up some students from another route for a couple of days, but that's all been worked out, and they had to reassign a couple of students, and things look good on that bus now for crowding.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you very much. That takes us to communications. I have no correspondence received. And then we're to communication announcements, student trustees, staff, Opspa. Are there any announcements that anyone wants to make? Trustee Johnstone.
Yeah, I'm just pivoting to my other screen now. So under that, so as you know, I chair the Opspa program work team. We've been very busy this year. And so one of the discussion, it has to do with trustees, is that we're going to be asking trustees. Now, this isn't staffing. They have a whole separate way of them talking to boards of education. So this is just for trustees. And we're going to be asking for your perspectives regarding the following two items. And the first one has to do with the future of public education. And there actually is a Opspa discussion paper. So what are the lessons being learned for schools and school boards as a result of COVID-19 experience? And the second question has to do with, in the light of these lessons, what key messages regarding the future of education do we want to convey to the ministry and our education partners? What should we start, stop, or continue? So in thinking about that, and it's always about how do we elicit feedback from trustees at all boards and across all regions. So I've suggested to the program work team, because oftentimes what happens is they want to turn around on this information in like 2 weeks. And oftentimes it doesn't coincide with our committees and things like that. So I suggested maybe they do a Survey Monkey with trustees, so that if they want, they can respond to some of these questions and provide feedback in that way. But also it brings me to the second part, is that those same questions are going to be asked at the Western Regional meeting that's on February 20th. And it wasn't put on your calendar, but you've just received from TJ the agenda for that upcoming meeting on February 20th. It's a Saturday. It's just for a couple of hours in the morning. So when those two items for discussion are on there, but also that, you know, if you're unable to attend, that then also is that we're looking at, you know, some kind of survey or Survey Monkey to elicit from all trustees. And that's all I have to share. And if there's any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer to the best of my ability.
Trustees have any questions or anything else they would like to share? I see none. Are there any out of district meetings or conferences that you'd like to share? Jan's on one there, and Trustee Johnstone.
Yeah, it was just you know, because I was also going to mention it in the calendar events, but that's the Opspa Western Regional meeting is coming up. If you could put it on your calendar. And also just a reminder, and you've been getting, we're hearing from Rusty, who's the director for Opspa, is that we have a Lunch and Learn program going on. And I just don't have that date right in front of me, but there's one coming up. And we have a guest speaker, and it's only for an hour, and, you know, people just go on Zoom, and I understand, I haven't attended one actually yet, but I understand that they're very good. So if you can participate or have some time, then it's an opportunity for further, say, education understanding.
And I know that our part 2s of the intensive human rights training is coming up. I am aware of that because my part 2 is tomorrow afternoon. So that is also on our docket. Anything else? And that takes us to our calendar of events. We've referenced it a couple of times. The March break our new April break will be reflected in the updated version, and the February 20th regional meeting is there, not on, but needs to be added. And that takes us down to our adjournment, that the Blue Water District School Board adjourn at 8:11 p.m. Could I have a mover, please? Trustee Johnstone, seconded by Trustee McComb. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
You too. Thank you. And you're not a cat.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.